Well, welcome back, guys. It's been a little while since I have uploaded a video. I have been kind of focusing on hunting this fall. That's kind of the thing that I do to relax in the fall. Takes my mind off fishing. Had a great deer season. Shot 2 decent 8-pointers this year. So can't complain with that. So we're back at it on my local river, doing a little bit of live scoping and throwing a jerkbait. As you can see here, the particular jerkbait that I'm throwing is the Stunna 112 plus 1. Throwing that on 10-pound fluoro, 610 medium action rod, and a low gear ratio reel, and just fishing it kind of slow but also kind of fast depending on the mood of the fish. And as you can see, this one here really enjoyed that jerkbait. Most of these fish were actually hanging in deeper water. As you can see, I'm actually fishing an outside bend in the creek, and usually with these outside bends you'll find some water somewhere between, let's say, 12 to 20 feet, and these fish are usually hanging somewhere just off the ledge, and you can get them to react to a jerkbait this time of year if you know where to look and where to cast, which is really where Livescope comes in. That's a huge player for me this time of the year, is using my Livescope to find cover, but also to find groups of fish that are located in these areas. And as you can see here, I located a keeper, and I'm fixing to catch another one off the same stump, but I'm using a different technique. A very popular technique right now, you've probably seen it, is something called strolling. It's where you basically take a fluke style bait on a jig head and fish it for suspended fish with Livescope. Here I'd had a couple fish chase my jerkbait, and I decided to give them something a little bit different. So if you're wondering, can you fish with a strolling rig in a river, the answer is absolutely. And so this one in particular, I'm actually using a 1/16 ounce Moon Eye jig head with a Zoom tiny fluke, a little 6/8 light action rod, 15-pound braid, to a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. That really allows me to keep that bait above the fish, because with the strolling rig you want to keep that bait above the fish, but want to be able to work it really slow. So that's where that 1/16 ounce jig head comes into play. And as you can see, that one there really enjoyed it, and it's kind of nice to be able to throw something a little bit different instead of always having to rely on my jerk baits. But if you're looking for something else to Livescope with, definitely check out the strolling technique. In East Tennessee, when I lived there, we did the same thing this time of the year. It's labeled as tight lining in East Tennessee. Used a little bit different gear, used 4-pound test, but same principle. So we're back at the jerkbait now. There's actually a school of fish in this mouth of this ditch. There's probably 15 or 20 of them there, and for some reason I could only get one fish to fire out of this school, and it's this fish right here. Decent sized fish, but there was definitely some bigger ones in there, because I had a really nice one follow my jerkbait, but would never commit. And when you start trying to Livescope and fish with a jerkbait, one of the things that is probably misrepresented more on YouTube is this idea that if you have Livescope, you're just going to be able to go out there and catch every fish that you see. The fish have no chance. And the truth is, I would say only about 10% of the fish that you actually throw out in a day actually bite your bait. I probably casted at over 100 fish on this particular outing, and really only caught 8 or 9. So that's something to remember there. Now, I have switched up here. I noticed that there's another pod of fish right in this little area, and they would not bite that 112 plus 1 from Berkeley. So I switched over to the Megabass 110 plus 1 Junior. I really like having a finesse type jerkbait tied on this time of the year. It really seems to be able to catch fish when that bigger jerkbait won't get them to commit. So that's kind of one thing to really take into consideration, is having several different jerkbaits. I like to run 3 this time of the year. Usually I run a finesse jerkbait, a 110 plus 1 Junior. Then I run a normal size like 110 plus 1, Berkeley 112 plus 1. And then another thing that I usually add into this is a Megabass 110 plus 2 on heavier line, so like 15-pound test. And the reason that I run that jerkbait is because it'll actually get the same depth as a 110 plus 1 on like 10-pound test, but I can fish it around a lot heavier cover than the 110 plus 1. For some reason, that 110 plus 2 with the bigger lip allows you to work it through laydowns and log jams much easier without getting hung up as much. So there's a little tip for you. If you're fishing around heavy cover laydowns, jump up in bill size and line size, and that bait will work through the cover much easier. Now this one here hit the finesse jerkbait, and I had to really play around with this fish. It didn't want to commit to it. I had to keep, jerking it, pausing it. And you'll probably have noticed that this fish actually hit on a very long pause. And that sometimes happens this time of the year. And if you're not careful live scoping, you'll get impatient, and you will pull the bait away from a lot of fish that you might have caught if you would have been a little bit more patient. Now, there are several things that I have learned with Livescope, and one of the things that I've really learned as of late is how active these fish really are in colder water. For years we've been told that these fish don't move much in the winter when the water's cold. Though on this particular outing, the water was like 48, 47 degrees. And that is actually absolutely not the case. These fish will fly up off the bottom to eat that jerkbait and attack that jerkbait. So that's one thing that I'm learning as well. Another thing that I've really learned as of late, in particular on my local river, which is a coastal river here in eastern North Carolina, is that there are a lot of bass that are off the bank in that deeper water. And if we're not careful, you get so used to beating the bank that you miss some of the better quality fish that are actually hanging out in that deeper water. So there's another little tip for you as well, that I catch this fish right after I caught that one. And that's another kind of thing to remember this time of the year that I've learned, is that these fish a lot of times group up, and they are really schooled up. If you find them, you found them, and when you find them, you really need to hunker down and fish for those fish. So just a little tip, little reminder there: don't move on from fish. Try to use some different techniques, some different lures to try to get those fish to commit, instead of just moving on to find the next group of fish, because sometimes you will skip over winning fish to find some fish that aren't as good of quality. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time here on the channel. Once again, thanks for watching.